So you want to write a story, but you have no idea where to begin. So this video will hopefully serve as the bare minimum of getting your story written and just getting that first draft done and over with. So let's begin. I would like you to answer these questions for yourself. Maybe grab a notebook and a pen and write them down, or just, have a think about them. First of all, is it going to be a short story, or is it going to be something longer? Is it going to be like a full-length novel? And you need to have that figured out. For short stories, even though some of the planning might be similar, you're obviously going to want to skip over the more tedious parts of planning your story. The second question I have for you is, what genre is your book going to be? I think it's a pretty obvious question, but if you haven't decided what your story is going to be, this is probably a great time to pause the video and decide that. Number 3 is, who is your main character? Now, you'll want to outline your main character, at least so that you know what that main character wants from the story. What kind of personality does the character have? Know the flaws of your character and what motivates your character to do the things that he or she does, or why they make those decisions the way they do. Number 4 is, now that you have your main character, what is the main problem that they run into? Sometimes it can be as simple as someone breaking a glass in the kitchen while making breakfast, for example, as part of your short story, for example. It does not have to be complex, but it needs to matter to your main character. And that's why I am going back to mentioning the main character, and the importance of having your character outlined is that you need to know the motivations of your character. Maybe to your character, breaking a glass in the kitchen while making breakfast is going to be a big deal, while it might not be a big deal for other characters. So spend your time carefully picking out qualities of your character, and it will help you in building an inciting event. Also, the main event of your story can be the beginning of your story. You could decide that the main event is how your story begins. For example, breaking the glass. That's exactly where the story begins. No mention of what was happening before that event. Just go straight into the action, and you can decide to plan your story accordingly. Or it could be the middle of your story. That could be the time where your character totally loses it, and the reader has insight of what was happening before that event, and again, your story changes drastically. If you're not too sure how to include this, try writing both out as a creative exercise. Honestly, whichever works best or whichever feels best for you, go with that one. And number 5 is not a critical step of completing or writing a story, but it's something that I like to include personally, and that is to have a playlist made, or at least some kind of reminder of where my story is going. And that could be reminders of your theme of the book, of how your character is feeling or is meant to feel throughout the story, and hence the emotion you're trying to project onto your readers. Number 6 is knowing that you don't need to have it all figured out. So while you have your main character and you have the main obstacle that they're going to run into, and knowing why that obstacle matters to your character, why is it even important to us as a reader to know what's happening, or why this specific event is worthy of being a story for your character. The other elements of your story can follow without much planning beforehand. So other elements of your story, for example, a secondary problem that your character runs into, you don't need to plan that in advance. So while you know the gist of your story, you know the main obstacle. As you write, these things will come to you most probably as inspiration, or ideas will spark during the process. And I would say that over planning and over worrying will prevent you from actually starting your project. And more times often than not, we just sit and think about it too much, and either we lose inspiration and we lose the spark, and we just, don't write anything at all. So instead of doing that, just have these things listed down and just start, I would say. And you will learn from your own mistakes that you do not need someone holding your hand during the entire writing process. Maybe it's helpful for getting it started, but other than that, you will only learn from your own experience, and The only way to get better at writing is writing. So please just begin and don't worry too much about it being perfect. I hope this video will have helped at least someone out there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.